Well, I really think that it has a lot to do with the obvious inflation, because that's when people understand that their currency is losing value when it costs them more and more to buy the things, So if the central banks can keep it at 2%, they're getting that price stability. In other words, people aren't asking for more wages. But I think when it moves at the level the speed that it's been moving, then that makes people notice that something is going on with the currency. I think that's really it. That will then begin to push the price of silver and gold to its true fundamental value.
Lynette Zang, a reputable personality in the investment scene and chief marketing analyst at ITM Trading, has joined her voice to that of others who speak of an impending bank collapse that promises to be fatal and total. The collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank, the latest in the United States history of bank collapses, was yet another example which showed that money kept in the bank could be lost at any time. All that's needed is for the bank to fold. This has led investors and holders of the currency to look for alternatives to the currency. When she was asked why people were investing more in gold and silver, Zhang said that it had a lot to do with inflation. When there is a high rate of inflation which obviously saps the currency of its strength, people are programmed to think that the economic event is due to a problem with the currency, and then they look for alternatives. They search frantically for alternatives that are not affected by inflation or any other abnormality with fiat currencies. That's why experts believe people will now turn to gold and silver to avoid the impending collapse of the United States dollar. It isn't wrong because, unlike the dollar, which relies on various factors beyond its control to thrive, precious metals do not rely on any such factors, thus making it a wise form of investment and savings. Another viewpoint is that the rise in the purchase of gold and silver can be due to a loss of faith in the system that is supposed to keep the banks afloat and stable. We will get into Zhang's interview in a bit, but before we do, please take a minute to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on our next big story. All these help the channel with the YouTube algorithm and ensure our growth. Now let's get to that interview.
That's what always happens, because this is indeed a con game. That man was absolutely correct about that. And when all confidence is lost, and I've been watching the layers of confidence in the system go away. In 2008, it was bank-to-bank confidence at interbank lending, gone. Banks didn't lend to each other anymore. Then in 2015, it was central bank to central bank, with the Swiss surprise where they had made this overt and very vocal commitment to maintaining a peg to the Swiss franc to the euro dollar. And 2 days after they came out and said, this is our highest priority, boom, they removed that peg. That was the Swiss surprise. So it was central bank to central bank. And last August, not even a year ago, when the central bank, using its forward guidance, which was a key tool, the central bank was going to tell the banks everything that they're doing so that the banks on Wall Street could get into position and benefit from this. And they kept saying, that we were going to do 50 basis point move on interest rates, 50 basis points, and then bam, they did 75. So Wall Street knows that they can no longer have confidence that the central bank will do what they're telling them that they're going to do. That only leaves one layer of confidence, and rapid inflation erodes that confidence. That's why it's so critically important for them to get a handle on that again. And let's expand that a little bit, because what have we seen since that happened but money fleeing the smaller community banks, some of it going into the larger banks, but even more of it going into money markets, right?
That's right.
And what happened in 2008, where they froze it, and then the money market, it was the Prime Fund. I think it was the Prime Fund. I can't remember the name exactly. But they halted redemptions. Then they put in place money market reforms, which would pay fees and gates to prevent that again. But then in 2020, they discovered that those fees and gates were not enough. So they're putting in place reforms, and what they're calling it is swing pricing, so that the money markets will determine how much it would cost to liquidate their illiquid assets and charge you that, even if they liquidate those assets that are highly liquid, or at least at this point appear highly liquid now. So, hey, you think you've got it at $1 for dollar, but when you go to redeem, you'll see a little pop-up that says, okay, we'll give you 60 cents on the dollar. Do you still want to go through with this transaction? And what will most people do? They'll probably say, oh, no, I don't want to pay that fee.
Right.
So they'll leave their wealth at risk.
When the interviewer expressed shock over what he thought was our total confidence in a banking system that could disappoint any or all of us at any point in time, Zang agreed with him, painting a picture that the banking system is one that did everything possible to convince people to put their money in it. When these depositors want their money back, they would face restrictions they weren't told of in the first place. Zang also believes that the problem of an impending banking collapse will cause the value of gold and silver to rise, which of course would be good news for investors in the precious metals. This is why it is proper to ensure that you have an investment in gold or silver or even the two of them. Though you may find Zhang's predictions too damning and disturbing, you cannot deny that her thinking pattern in this case is valid, and that it is essential to buy gold or silver during this period of uncertainty with the US dollar. What are your thoughts on the failing strength of the US dollar? Do you also agree with Zang that a banking collapse is imminent and stocking up your gold and silver is the way to live through it? Please drop your opinions on these and your thoughts on Zhang's interview in the comments section below. We would love to know what you think of all this. Please don't forget to leave us a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and turn on post notifications. Thanks for staying with us, and I will see you in the next one.